Nintendo is on the doorstep of their biggest console launch of all time. This time next month, hell, just in a few short weeks, the Switch 2 is going to be hitting shelves, and for the first couple of weeks and for the first couple of months, that thing is going to be gangbusters. They're going to be making billions of dollars. They're going to be selling consoles hand over fist as quickly as they can put them out there. People will be snatching them up, and no, I'm not just talking about the scalpers. Ultimately, yeah, it's going to be hugely successful. Is it going to be able to crack the top best, or the 8 best-selling console list in history? Which honestly, it's kind of funny, right? Because I could just go ahead and spoil it for you. It's half and half split. Okay, like what is it? The 8th best-selling console, the PlayStation 3, which actually I think I was a little bit shocked about, but then also, you know, you just really factor some things in. Okay, and yeah, 87 million units. Okay, I think it probably surpasses maybe the NES. That would be the other one that would be up there. But yeah, half of these consoles on the list, okay, 4 come from Sony and 4 come from Nintendo. You got the Wii, you got 2 PlayStation consoles. The four being up there, that's kind of crazy. 117 million units. Oh, that's strange. But yeah, the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. That was kind of it depends on how you want to categorize the Game Boy Color. I guess that's kind of cross-generational, but it is what it is. And then yeah, you got the Nintendo Switch clocking in at 3, and the DS clocking in at 2. So yeah, I would imagine that there's a possibility for the Switch to leapfrog the DS. 154 million units, 150 million. I would imagine there's probably a stronger than not possibility that the original Switch gets into that second position by the end of the year. Another 4 million units. I don't necessarily think that's going to be out of the range of possibility, mostly because there's not a lot of reason, especially with the announced games that are there for the Switch 2 exclusively, for anybody to really jump over, and it's mostly because Nintendo is doing a horrific job of marketing their new console to really try to ingratiate themselves to their audience, because bro, they're letting the success of their most recent console go to their head. We've talked about their greedy price gouging nature, like the stuff that they have on offer, okay, like their accessories. Yeah, I have the Pro Controller. I like the Pro Controller for the Switch. I just don't think it's a $90 controller. Their stupid goofy camera at $60, and then of course you got the games that are coming out, which yeah, Mario Kart World in Canada, $120, bruh. I could get thousands of hours of gameplay out of it. Yeah, tell me about how, you know, Nintendo was going to justify it with the Mario Kart specific direct. Oh, right, it came, it went, and nothing came out of that. They're still going to charge you for DLC tracks. They're still going to charge you for characters. But no, you go ahead and you bag lick Nintendo because you think that they're really making the games for gamers, even though it's the same iterative bullshit that it's been peddling for the past 20 years. But hey, as we're getting closer to the release of the Switch, we're starting to find out a couple of other under-the-hood settings. Okay, so the Switch 2, Nintendo reveals that the Switch 2 can be locked with a pin. Oh, okay, so it has that cutting-edge technology of a screen lock. All right, Nintendo's latest information on the highly sought-after Nintendo Switch 2, that it can be locked with a pin number after the system wakes from sleep. Okay, cool. That really got me off the edge. Okay, that really, you know, is a real mover and shaker for me. I mean, this is also the same company that it took until, yeah, this console right here to finally have a native Ethernet port. I think the Wii U had it. I think. I could look, like, I've actually got, of all of the consoles that I could use for a point of reference that is reasonably close to me. Hell, actually, I'll pull it out right now. Console's actually a little bit dug under where it is right now, but here's the controller, right? Remember how Nintendo promised, you know, that you'd be able to buy multiple of these Wii pads or whatever, you know, you'd be able to do that not long after release, but the Wii U died before you had an opportunity to do that. It's not like Nintendo's had broken promises before or anything like that, but yeah, hey man, it's kind of crazy. Like, I got the extra battery pack that's on it, mostly because this, oh my god, the battery life on this thing was absolute shit, but, you know, hey, their construction quality is actually pretty good, all things considered. And yeah, I was one of these suckers that, oh god, I forget, when did the Wii U launch? But I got mine Boxing Day of whatever that the first release year was, mostly because they were just sitting on the shelf, and I was genuinely shocked because, well, I wasn't quite as plugged into the whole gaming space as I am now, or would eventually become in more recent years. I thought that it was selling good, mostly because, hell, the Wii U sold good, and everything that I'm seeing in regards to the Switch 2 and the way that Nintendo is holding itself, it really does harken back to the type of arrogance that they had with the Wii. So them coming out and saying, "Hey guys, look, we've got a lock screen now. That's really cool. And hey, also, hey, we got a really cool strategy where you can only charge the console to 90% if you want, because we didn't really upgrade the battery from the base model from the base model Switch or anything like that, but yeah, we'll only allow you to charge it up to 90% if you want. It's a setting that's in there. It'll reduce battery deterioration, I guess. So instead of having a higher quality battery, instead of making a comparatively powerful console, not something that is powerful in comparison to a console that came out in 2013, over a decade ago, a base PS4, that's what this thing is apparently competitive with. Instead of doing that, we'll just make sure that your battery doesn't deteriorate. Cool. So how is it? Okay, if you want to put that setting on and only charge to 90%, that's fantastic. But constantly charging it up to 90%, aren't you creating an artificial cap on that? And wouldn't that necessarily deteriorate the battery? I'm not entirely sure how that works, but that's not the only thing that they're bringing over, because Nintendo, like I said before, and like you'll constantly hear the Nintendo simps out there say, "Hey guys, they really got the gamer at heart on this one." That's because their other new setting that is just coming to light is Nintendo can and will break your Switch console from modding and piracy according to a new policy update. Right, guys? Hey, they got your opinions and they've got gamers in mind. And while you might think that you won't be subject to this or anything, because you don't mod, you don't pirate or anything like that, and how can you do something like that, okay, to your console? Well, here's the thing. Before I, started to get dedicated into PC gaming, I ended up jailbreaking my original Wii. Not for any nefarious means. I just, needed something, or rather wanted something that, I could emulate a couple of things off of. And because the Nintendo eShop, that was relatively cheap. Hell, it was the first time that, even though it's one of my earliest gaming memories, Super Mario World, and I had the Super Mario World plus All-Stars Kart, and that's one of my favorite things ever, and the fact that I still don't have a Super Nintendo. And it was something that ended up getting sold in order to get the original PlayStation, which I think that's one of my spiciest takes, which I don't think the 6th generation, do I have that correct? The N64 and the PS1, I think that is the most overrated generation, full stop. But yeah, I'm trying to remember how this all worked. I think we sold the Sega Genesis in order to get the NES, and I hated the NES because the only game that we got was a Ninja Gaiden, and I thought all of the games on the NES were of that difficulty level, so silly me at the time. And then I'm pretty sure we sold the Super Nintendo that had that Mario World and All-Stars Kart. Oh god, what else did we have? God damn it, man. Kirby Superstar. Never had Super Mario RPG, didn't get that until the Switch remake came along. I actually got to play that game. God, I got it for Christmas and still haven't gotten around to it. Still playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC still. But yeah, selling that for the PS1, bro, for many good memories as I have playing, the 3 Final Fantasy games that came out on the console, doing away with the Super Nintendo was that was a bad trade. I would go back. I don't have very many regrets in life, but that's right up there. Still have the N64, but I don't think I'm ever going to plug that in or ever play any of those games, which is, a big impetus for me jailbreaking the Wii, because while I bought a ton of the official 3rd and 4th generation eShop ports that they had, it didn't have the full catalog of games that I wanted to play, and because jailbreaking a Wii was relatively simple, and you could get it to be a relatively good emulation device, well, hell, I did that. So theoretically, if I was to do that with a Switch, and I think that that's also something that's fairly easy, because also emulating a Switch is remarkably simple, and it has been since the console first launched, Nintendo could break your console according to this new update, which is wild, man. Nintendo has fired a warning shot at would-be hackers and modders just weeks ahead of the Switch 2 launch. Tweak your system or engage in piracy, and you could lose it for good. In a quiet but sweeping update to its user agreement, Nintendo now states it reserves the right to permanently disable your consoles, break it, yes, if you're caught attempting to pirate games, run unauthorized software, or tamper with any of the system's protections, which is absolutely wild. You don't actually own anything now. I thought, there was a company at the beginning of last year that came out and said that gamers need to be used to not owning their games, but because the nice little Japanese company ostensibly tells you the exact same thing, people are just going to look the other way. That's fantastic. You acknowledge that if you fail to comply with the foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and or the applicable Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part. That is absolutely wild because, okay, I could understand suspending your account. I wouldn't be for it, but that is a punitive measure that a bunch of different companies employ. But breaking the system that you bought, bro, what are we doing? The update first reported by GameFile marks the first revision to the user terms since 2021. Oh, see, Nintendo's good because they never have to update any of their... They never have to, have these big day one patches, but when they do, they offer such great things like breaking your console. While the old language merely told users to not to reverse engineer or modify their accounts, this new iteration takes a sledgehammer approach, leaving little doubt that Nintendo intends to get aggressive with piracy enforcement on the Switch 2. Timing is no coincidence, yes, as the Switch 2 is set to launch on June 5th and represents a significant leap in both performance and infrastructure. Not really. Okay, the original Switch relied heavily on cartridges, and the new model is expected to lean far more on digital downloads. Yes, because of the quote-unquote physical copies that you get, you have to do a gigantic download in order to fully play. Yeah, making it even more critical for Nintendo to protect its own software ecosystem. So yeah, hey man, they keep on getting more and more greedy, but hey, the open market, and you want to go ahead and engage in open war with pirates, yarhar fiddle-dee-dee, you're gonna get fucking obliterated from the... I look forward to covering the overwhelming success of the launch of the Switch 2. Don't get this twisted, man. This is gonna be a huge release for Nintendo. I'm just interested to see what this ultimately looks like down the road once Nintendo gets even more petty and as they continue to piss off bigger and bigger segments of the gaming population. It's going to be interesting to see because history doesn't tend to repeat itself. I don't think the Switch 2 is going to be a flop like the Wii U was, but as a wise, white-haired, chinless man once said, history is like poetry. It rhymes. And gamers ultimately abandoned the Wii U, and they've been waiting for an excuse to abandon Nintendo for quite a while now. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I'm Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.